Hi everyone, welcome to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. My name is Artem, and here is the news. 810 days less the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Russian forces continue to advance in the Kharkiv region. In his evening video address, President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky informed that he received reports from the Commander-in-Chief and the Minister of Defense regarding the situation in all the most intense directions. In the Kharkiv region, Ukrainian forces tried to counterattack. Reinforcements have been sent in the area, in particular in Vovchansk and border areas in general. According to the head of state, Brigadier General Mikhailo Drapyaty is in charge of this direction directly on the ground, and he is provided with the necessary munitions and forces. Quote, "Now we are getting more and more results, destroying the occupiers' infantry and machinery. At the same time, we understand the enemy's actions and their plan to divert our forces," unquote, stressed Zelensky. He added that Ukraine does not leave the Donetsk direction without the necessary support and supplies, namely the Kramatorsk and Pokrovsk sectors. Constant attention is paid to the Kupiansk sector on the border with the Kharkiv region. Quote, "We also observe hostile activity against Sumy and Chernigiv regions, subversive groups and shelling. We are responding with fire as we should. Our task is crystal clear to thwart Russia's attempt to expand the war," unquote, said the president. He thanked warriors from the 110th Separate Mechanized Brigade for downing another Russian Su-25 in the Donetsk region. The General Staff of Ukraine informed that Ukrainian forces fight off 13 Russian attacks in the Kharkiv region. The Ukrainian troops inflicted fire on the Russians, drove them back and conducted a mop-up operation on the northern outskirts of the village of Vovchansk, Kharkiv Oblast. A combat clash there began in the vicinity of the village of Staritsa. The total losses of the enemy amount to 106 people, 25 units of weapons and military equipment. Russian forces have had partial success near the settlement of Lukyantsy. The advancing of the Russians has been stopped. At the same time, Ukrainian forces are conducting counterattacks. The reserves have been transferred to the Kharkiv front in order to strengthen Ukrainian forces. Depending on how the events will unfold, strengthening of the grouping will continue. Ukraine's open-source intelligence initiative Deep State claims that Russian forces occupied the village of Lukyanivtsi in the north of the Kharkiv region, reports Ukrainska Pravda. Also, the enemy advanced near Vovchansk, Hlyboke, near Yagidne, south of Pervomaiske, in Krasnogorivka and near Verbove. The situation in Zelene was clarified. There was no communication for a long time, and it was believed that the enemy had captured the village, but this was not confirmed. Meanwhile, Ukraine conducted a missile strike against an air defense base in the Ipetri, a peak in the Crimean mountains. As a result, the commander of the military unit was killed. Several missiles, presumably Storm Shadows, attacked the military unit of the 3rd Radio Engineering Regiment of Russia's armed forces. The radars on the south coast of Crimea are known from Soviet times, when the Radio Technical Center for Long-Range Reconnaissance and Guidance of Air Defense Forces was established on the top of Ipetri Mountain. We would really appreciate if you could rate us, ideally with 5 stars, and leave a glowing review in the app where you are listening to this podcast, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and others. This really helps more people to find out about the highlights from Ukraine and truth about Russia's invasion. The Wall Street Journal assessed that compared to the previous half-year, Ukrainian air defense has intercepted far fewer Russian missiles, reports Suspilne. In the past 6 months, Ukraine intercepted around 46% of Russian missiles, compared with 73% in the preceding 6 months period. Last month, the interception rate fell to 30% of missiles. The interception rate for long-range Shahed drones, which are easier to shoot down, fell just 1 percentage point to 82% in the past 6 months. According to the media, the deterioration of the effectiveness of Ukrainian air defense comes as Russia is increasing the number of drones and missile attacks, as well as launching more and more weapons that are difficult to down, such as ballistic missiles. In addition, Kyiv is running out of ammunition for the Patriot air defense systems supplied by the West. Over the past 6 months, Russia has launched about 45% more drones and missiles than in the 6 months before that. A spokesperson for the Ukrainian armed forces explained to the Wall Street Journal that intercepting more attacks leads to the depletion of ammunition stocks, and larger-scale attacks can overwhelm Ukrainian defenses, as air defense systems sometimes do not have time to reload quickly enough. Over the past 6 months, Russia has fired almost twice as many Shahed attack drones at Ukraine, 2,628, compared to the same period prior to that. Analysts said that the drones are partly used to test air defense systems before launching missiles. Thank you for listening to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast. We're a commercial initiative of just 2 people and we need your help to grow. Share information about the podcast, rate us in the app, subscribe to our Patreon. With your support, we are getting better. We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine.